There are many auxiliary verbs in English language, and one of the group of auxiliary verbs is do, does, and did. Before we proceed, let me remind us the function of auxiliary verb in English language. Auxiliary verbs are also known as helping verbs. These verbs, they don't indicate actions on their own, but at times when they are used alone in a sentence, they express state of being. Okay? I repeat, when they are used alone in a sentence, they express state of being, not action. Okay? Now let's go back. How do we use do, does, and did as auxiliary verbs as far as English language is concerned? They are very simple to use. Each of them is very simple to use. Only that we have to understand the plural, the singular, and the past tense of this type of auxiliary verb. Now, for the sake of clarity and understanding, do is a plural auxiliary verb, meaning that it works with plural subject. You know, there is no how we talk about verb without mentioning that subject determine the verb to use in English language. Now, having established that do is a plural auxiliary verb, it then means that when you have a plural subject, that is when you are allowed to use do as auxiliary verb. Okay? What about does? Does is a singular auxiliary verb. I mean this. It then means that if you want to use does, okay, as an auxiliary verb, it basically works with singular subject. Then did is the past tense of both do and what? Does. How do I mean? In as much as what you are referring to is in past tense, it doesn't matter whether it is singular or what? Plural. Make use of did, because what you are referring to is what? Is in past tense. Now, how do we use each of these? That is do, does, and did. How do we make use of them in context? In context that I'm talking about is CONTEXT. That is in the practical aspect of it. Maybe when we are talking or when we are writing, how can we effectively make use of any of these, okay, in our sentence, either speaking or when writing? Look at this example on the board. Okay, number 1. They do go to church. They do go to church. When you look at this, they, that brings about a plural subject because they is a subject pronoun. But as a subject pronoun, it can only be used, okay, as plural. So because I have they, which is a plural subject pronoun, then I can use do. Why? Because do is the plural version of this auxiliary verb. And can you see what I've done? They do go to church. Plural auxiliary verb. Okay? Number 2. He does go to church. He does go to church. He does go to church. He, okay, is our what? Singular what? Subject. Because I have singular subject here, then grammatically speaking, okay, I can use does, because does is the singular form of what? Of do. He does go to church. He does go to church. What inform myself using does is because I have a singular subject here. Okay? Now look at this. Number 3 example. Okay? They did go to church last year. They did go to church last year. Okay? They did go to church last what? Last year. They, singular subject, plural subject. Okay? They, plural subject. Okay? But the action I'm referring to is in what? Is in past tense. So because of this now, I have to use the past tense form, okay, of do and does. And according to our previous explanation, what is the past tense of do and does? It is what? Did. So even when my subject is what? Plural subject, in as much as the action is in past tense, I still have to use did. And that was why I used did in this sentence. We can also have something like, he did go to church last year. He did go to church last year. Okay? Look at it now. Because the action I'm referring to is in past tense, then, okay, I can use what? Did. Okay? And when you look at the subject is what? The subject is singular. Okay? But as the subject is singular, okay, it is already in past tense. Are you getting it now? So once the action is in past tense, it does not matter whether what you are referring to is singular or what? Or plural. Okay? Make use of did. Okay? Make use of did. So far, this is how to use this set of auxiliary verb. Do, does, and what? Did. Now, let us have a recap of what we have done for today. Okay? Okay? Do is the plural form of this auxiliary verb. And when it is appropriate for us to use it, it is appropriate for us to use do when we have a plural subject. When we have a plural subject, or when you have a plural subject, okay, make use of do. okay, as auxiliary verb. Okay, if your subject is singular, okay, make use of does. And when your action is in past tense, it does not matter whether your subject is plural or what, singular, make use of did. Okay, there is something I want to call our attention to when it comes to writing of sentence that brings about past tense. It is always good in English language when you are writing to bring out what is known as tone of finality. I repeat, tone of finality. When you have a past tense actions, write it in such a way that it will not sound ambiguous, that it will not sound confusing to your reader or to your audience. Okay, look at what I did here. Last year. Okay, whoever that comes across this sentence will surely know that the action I'm referring to in this sentence has happened in time what? In time past. Don't just write past tense verb in English language, then you leave it as such. Try as much as possible to apply tone of what? Finality, so that your audience, your reader can know at a glance that the actions you are making reference to has already happened, done and dusted in time past. So far so good. That is how to use this set of auxiliary verb, that is do, does, and did.